Students graduate with a path and a plan.
One of the biggest advantages or disadvantages, Andrea, are the fact that we need to make sure that we have enough staff in order to meet those accommodations. There are a number of career pathways, as most of us know, and so we need to have individuals who are certified to teach in all of those areas in order to make sure those students are accommodated.
Absolutely. So making sure we have enough people and in all of those kind of different areas to be able to support the various needs and career interests of learners. Awesome. And Andrea, what do you see as the biggest challenges or hurdles to ensuring that students are able to graduate with a path and a plan that's a good fit for them?
Yeah, sure. And thanks again for having me today. I definitely echo Kim's sentiment about people. Having adults that have the expertise and the time to provide individual advising, capacity to learn so that they can provide career exploration supports to students. And then people to provide quality engagements, right? So we need people out in the community for these students to connect to. In addition to that, I would also add time. There are so many competing priorities in the classroom, on educators and in school districts, that how do we find additional time, or how do we reallocate time to provide the time for students to really do career exploration. And so that's really one of the second challenges. And then the third, I would say, is opportunities. So accessible and aligned opportunities are currently scarce and not created with equity in mind. And so we really need to focus on how we can create those.
So I'm hearing a lot about resources. So ensuring that we have enough people and the right people in place that are trained and have the time and availability to be able to provide this type of support. And then for our students and our learners, giving them access to having the appropriate time and resources as well to be able to fully invest in this and explore those different options. Yes. Absolutely. So you've both mentioned how important having career awareness and exploration opportunities, not just available, but accessible to students. And then I feel like I heard both of you mention that being early and throughout their actual K through 12 careers and education. So how do you ensure that students have the opportunity to explore a variety of career paths before they graduate? Andrea, could you kick us off on this one?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, starting early. So we in Cleveland have designed this planning and career exploration framework as a community that starts in 6th grade. We do recognize at some point that's probably going to have to move to a K-5 or a little bit earlier, but this hasn't been done. So we really wanted to focus in the launch of this initiative to start with 6th grade. So we have this structured plan that really provides opportunity for all students to do that awareness and exploration beginning then. They can start with that exploration, and then it continues to build over their course with layered in engagements with professionals, getting out of the classroom. So 6th grade's really a lot of in the classroom time, 7th grade follows suit, and then we start to shift to that more out of classroom time for that real world exploration as we go through it. And a lot of this work needs to revolve around the students' interests. So working with the students to identify where their interests lie and finding opportunities that align with those as well.
That's wonderful. So starting in 6th grade and really creating that entire kind of pathway and funnel and those different opportunities based on where they are kind of age-wise developmentally, and ensuring that there is that progression and those varied opportunities. I love that you said that it might go beyond or earlier than 6th grade as well. I think a lot of us are exploring those opportunities and how we can start to really provide that at an earlier age also.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kimberly, what are your thoughts on this? How do we help to ensure that young people have access to those opportunities starting very early and throughout their education?
So obviously, one of the things that we want to make sure we focus on is the fact that we're introducing our students to different careers throughout all of their education. At Branson, we have a career choices class that is a graduation requirement that the students take where they explore different careers. And in that class, we provide virtual experts in different careers to talk to the students, as well as the fact that we have a principles of IT class. I myself deal specifically with IT, and the principles of IT class is a graduation requirement where we introduce the students to the IT career field, as well as this being a prerequisite for the IT career pathways that we have within the school district.
Excellent. So like really bringing in those different speakers. And then Kimberly, and I know we'll kind of touch on this in different ways, but you work at a virtual school now, and there's also a physical school in Colorado for Branson schools. But can you tell me a little bit more about, I guess, some of the challenges that you've had as a virtual school and how you've addressed that to be able to bring in those speakers from kind of varying career fields for students in a virtual environment?
Our staff looks for individuals who are willing to share their experiences with our students. And so we interact with them and ask them to come and present their career to the students in a session where we meet with the students. In the physical school building, when I first started introducing students to careers, one of the biggest challenges was the fact that Branson itself is a very small community, about 55 miles from the nearest city, and the nearest city is Trinidad, Colorado. And so based on the fact that that is the nearest city, we had a lot of people who didn't have the time to travel to the school to meet with the students. And so I myself, years ago, started using Skype when I was teaching theater to have theater professionals of various sources come and interact with our students. And everywhere from the director of the Lincoln Theater to the stage manager of the Blue Man Group that performs on a regular basis in Orlando, and as well as an actress in New York that it was writing a book at the time, who was willing to come and share their experiences with our students. So that was one of the biggest experiences, one of the biggest challenges that we faced. But we were able to get past those challenges by using technology that we have today, such as Skype, Zoom, Microsoft Teams, and all of those other types of technologies that allow us to bring individuals into our classrooms and into our students' homes where they're learning.
That's awesome, Kimberly. I really love kind of how you pushed beyond the constraints or the boundaries like within that community to really think about different ways of bringing that visibility to different career pathways for students. And I think, you know, in today's world, right, after the pandemic, many of us are being put into positions where we need to explore beyond kind of the constraints of our physical world. And so thank you for bringing that up. And as we kind of transition into this next question, I'm going to ask both of you to kind of tease that out and talk a little bit more about how you're using technology or systems or structures or practices to help to do this work. So I think a lot of our audience members are hearing some of the ideas you're bringing forward. And Andrea, you know, you bringing up working with students in 6th grade and creating this really kind of progressive scaffolded plan. I think a lot of them are thinking, we'd love to do this, but as you mentioned in your responses to question number 1, I don't have the time. I don't have the time to do this. It takes so much effort. There's so many students, there's so many careers. And we're often working with under-resourced populations who might not be aware of all that's possible. There's only so many careers we can explore with limited time, and not all of the career pathways are represented in our communities. So how do you manage your time and your efforts to maximize your reach and your impact with career exposure and exploration and experiential learning when there are so many students and so many different options available? Kimberly, could you take us into this question a little bit and talk to us a little bit about how you help to structure your time, manage your time and effort so that you're really able to maximize that impact and maximize the opportunities and exposure for students?
Absolutely. Being an educator, as you know, we don't have a tremendous amount of time. And so I spend a lot of time planning my classes, especially the Principles of IT class, because that is the class where the students are introduced the most to the IT career field. And so that class in itself takes a lot of my time. I do a lot of networking things using email, using Zoom, just interacting with the Colorado Department of Education Computer Science Department, as well as MindSpark Learning and various other organizations that deal with the IT field in particular. In the Principles of IT class, it's important that we deliver enough information to the students so that they can make an educated decision before we make their schedules for the next school year. One of the other ways that I focus on understanding which of the students in that particular class are interested in continuing in the IT field is in January, I send the students a survey that asks them, why are they taking the class? And some of the options they have, some of them, obviously, it's a graduation requirement, so they'll take it just to earn the credit. And then I also put on there, I am interested in one of the IT career pathways and intend to follow one through the rest of my high school days. And so that way I know which of those students, and I also ask them which career pathway they're interested in so that I can send a recommendation to the principal of the classes that I feel we should teach the next school year. I also make sure that I stay focused on the career class and what type of career professionals they have coming to speak to the students. And so I spend a lot of time not only teaching, but interacting with others, networking to ensure that we can have as many opportunities for them to understand the career pathways as possible.
So I heard something that I want to expand on a little bit. You said provide students with enough information to make a decision. I want to just kind of push in that a little bit more, see if you could provide a little bit more detail about what that looks like, right? Because I think a lot of us struggle with like, what is that line? What is enough information that we're providing young people with that intentional ability to make decisions about what is the right fit for them without going overboard or without doing too much or without completely maxing ourselves out? Again, we know we don't have tons of time. So what is enough information to make a decision?
One of the resources that we use is a career aptitude test that will tell them, based on their interests and hobbies, what they feel they might be interested in, as well as the fact that throughout, especially in the Principles of IT class, I have the opportunity, because I'm teaching the students how to use presentation software such as Canva, Transeo, PowerPoint, I have the opportunity to allow them to bring in some additional interests and allow them to talk about those interests and research those interests so that they have that information. And so we do a career project where I have them look at the occupational handbook, where they pull out things like salary and job expectations and what kind of education you have to have, because it's important for us to understand as educators that not all of our students are headed to college. Some of them are going to be headed towards technical schools, and some of them will also be headed to the workforce. They'll just go right from high school into the workforce. And I think that's one of the reasons why it's so important for us to educate our students enough for them to know what exactly it is they want to do, so that when they do get to that point, they have the resources and know where to get what it is they need to do to get to that point.
Absolutely. So all of those early opportunities are building to that decision making, right? Building to
Absolutely.
when they actually need to make the decision, they've already had those. It's not then a rush of, okay, now how do I figure this out in the last hour?
Right.
And I love that you use surveys throughout as well to help to inform that process, not only to help you to identify which students, are most aligned to it, but also in then thinking about what classes to offer or what opportunities should be offered in the upcoming year.
Correct.
Andrea, your program is a bit different than Kimberly's, and your environment is a bit different than Kimberly's. So, can you talk to us a little bit about how you manage your time and efforts to be able to maximize your reach, particularly as you are expanding? Right, you're a relatively early or new program that it's expanding quickly and serving many, many, many students in the Cleveland area.
Yeah, sure. So just for context, so the Greater Cleveland Career Consortium started last April, and we were set up to serve the largest district in our community, the Cleveland Metropolitan School District, and we are quickly expanding to 10 other districts in the county. Just in this fall, we will have about 27,000 students within our ecosystem, and the population is about 88% Black and Hispanic. So just to help put in context, coming from the rural to the urban setting, from where Kim is to where we're working. So I think about this question, right? It kind of combines both time and exposure to opportunities in one. We're thinking about it together, but separately. So if I think about the prioritizing time, our work within the GCCC has really been to work with the school districts to look at what they're already doing in terms of career readiness, right? We know these districts have already been doing great work, and we're helping them take what this community designed over the past 3 years and work to implement the key pieces to enhance that work that they're already doing. So we're helping bring this additional career readiness research, career exploration, work and career-based learning into their master plan, their master schedule, to not have to find other time, right? We're not looking, we can't extend the school day, but how do we help them prioritize some of this? How do they weave that in and embed it into the core curriculum? And how do they create this these additional opportunities for the students? So our work is really kind of in that consulting with the school districts to help them prioritize that. I think on the exposing to opportunities, there's a couple of pieces that we've done here. One, we've created a funnel type approach to exposure. So again, our framework is starting in 6th grade, and we've really created this approach and looking at the 23 O-Net job families to really ensure that we are exposing students before the end of 7th grade to all 23 job families. And if you're not familiar with job families, those are similar occupations grouped by work, activities, knowledge, and skills. So we've really focused there so these students can understand. And while we can't expose them to every occupation, they can get a flavor of the different types of work that goes on out there so they can start to align with it. From there, they'll continue to research and build upon what they learn in that 6th and 7th grade. We also realize that career paths aren't linear. So by having those exposures very early on, we hope that students will have a better sense of what's out there and then can start to plan for what the right career path or pathways are for them at that time as they're in their exposure, to create that positive learning so they can explore other fields as they need. Our work is very student-centered. So while we're providing this broad exposure to these opportunities for students, we want them to continue to explore what's of interest to them at that point in time, right? So we'll start to see that funnel approach kind of weaning down as they start to make those choices. We're tracking those changes and following upon that. In terms of creating additional opportunities to guarantee exposure, we're working with industry partners to come into the classroom to provide assets for the career library that we actually are housing in Transeo, so that students can find in-demand exploration opportunities that exist in our community. And that is done through that layered approach from 6th through 12th grade. So these really early career chats, as we've called them, we have a structured approach to those career chats. And then building into these on-site tours and job shadowing opportunities, building all the way to true work-based learning like internships and pre-apprenticeship type programs.
You said something that really caught my attention, which is pathways are not linear. And I think that that is not only incredibly important for us as a community and as educators to recognize, but also for us to be able to help our learners to recognize that. I think so often as we kind of talk about career pathways or, what our future looks like, we think it's this very step-by-step process. And so when young people don't have those clarity of steps, it can feel overwhelming and challenging. So really helping to set those expectations in the context for the variability in what that looks like and the necessity of trying lots of different things that aren't going to work or aren't going to be the right fit necessarily, but help us to eliminate or help us to hone in on what is the right fit for us. I also think one of the other things I want to bring forward that I heard you say is like really working with districts to recognize the current state where they are with their own work-based learning and career and technical education journey, and then helping to augment and kind of provide support services or additional access to opportunities in ways that will expand their services and help them to scale.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think one key point on that is, as we've talked about this effort over the past few years, right, we've really got into defining these terms. Everybody uses career in so many different ways, right? There's so many different synonyms. So we really had to break it down into, you have a job at this point in time. To get there, you've defined this career path, and your career journey is made up of these different pieces of your career path, and you can continue to redefine that to build out your entire career journey. So we've noticed that as well, and have worked to try to make sure that language is clear for all these individuals, so they understand that if they pick something in high school, that's not where they need to stay. And it's that teaching them how to fish, right? They figured this out, they learn how to explore, and then they can go do that again when they realize their interests, their skills, and their passions have changed.
Absolutely. Giving them the chance to be able to practice pivoting, changing, and that is going to happen throughout our careers.
Yep.
Excellent. Okay, so we know that nobody can do this alone. For those of you that are trying to do it alone, you know how true that statement is. And I think a lot of our audience members are, right? We're the only person in our district, we're the only person in our community who's really pushing these efforts forward. But we know that effective career programming takes the support and the collaboration between many entities, business community, military officials, nonprofits, representatives from the academic world, right? It's this entire community coming together and creating these comprehensive collaborative programs that really provides the impact. So I'm going to start with Kimberly on this one. Kimberly, could you tell me a little bit about how you engage these different groups to help to promote these opportunities? So how do you engage your business owners and your community members and your nonprofits and these different kind of collaborative groups? How do you engage them to help to support your students and expand your efforts?
Well, as I stated earlier, we don't have exposure to many individuals face-to-face when we're working in the virtual world. So networking is extremely important. So technology has definitely enhanced that process through allowing us to send these individuals emails and have phone conversations with them. There are some networking opportunities that we have in person, obviously belonging to organizations such as the Computer Science Teachers Association. In the past, I've dealt with an organization known as TEAL that provides industry professionals in a classroom to students, and as well as other business professionals who provide services to educators that teach within the IT world in particular. That's what I mainly deal with. Also grant writing within both the state of Colorado and various philanthropy organizations that we have contact with. And those organizations allow us to get resources to introduce students to things like robotics and drones and just a number of resources that we can use to teach the students about things within the career. So that way, some funding comes from those entities, as well as I myself participate with eDynamics Learning in the Empowered Educators Program for that exact reason, so that I am kept abreast of what's happening within the CT world and what other schools are doing. Networking with other schools and working with other instructors is extremely important in order for us to be able to know what is out there, not just within our own realm, but within the outside world. One of the ways that I keep things straight and organized is I keep databases on my computer of individuals I've contacted and what they're willing to share, and what databases of resources for funding possibilities, as well as the fact that I get emails from organizations, saying if we would like to apply for a grant or like to talk to them about some sort of program. So networking is one of the biggest things that is extremely important in this industry, especially when it comes to career and technical education, because obviously technology changes on a daily basis, and we need to keep ourselves informed of what's happening in that industry, and talk with employers about what it is they're looking for in employees and how we can provide that education to our students.
Thank you, Kimberly. And thank you for mentioning some of those like different groups that you are a part of and that you network with. Most of our audience is probably not here in Colorado, although I am as well. But could you give me just a little bit more information about some of the places that you might search for those opportunities, or like how you would actually come across a potential funding opportunity or something for robotics or drones, or how do you find those?
There are websites available. There's one in particular that I get an email from regularly called Get Ed Funding, and they send out national opportunities of funding, places that you can look to find funding, as well as the fact that if you just search, places like Google have programs where they'll provide curriculum such as the Google Assisted Skills curriculum. Many of these organizations have programs where you can apply for funding or do something to earn materials to use for funding. I had the opportunity when I did my internship with MindSpark Learning in 2021 to work for the summer for Sphero, and so gain some materials from them doing that. Also, keep in contact with your state's Department of Education, whomever deals with the computer science department. Many times they have resources of places that you can look for funding. So the internet definitely is a place where you can look for funding for various things. And many of those organizations don't just fund IT projects, they also fund projects through others as well, through other career fields, as well as look for places like, I've gotten some funding through DonorsChoose.org, where they let you actually choose what it is that you want for your classroom, and look for individuals who are looking to fund these types of programs, as well as the fact that there are some other organizations similar to DonorsChoose.org that are out there now that allow teachers to look for funding for their classroom. So anywhere you can find funding, and it never hurts to ask network professionals, and career professionals that you're interacting with, if they know of any place that would be willing to do funding. Within Trinidad, we have an organization there called the Barnai that funds classrooms, and it's a philanthropy organization. And so sometimes just contacting your local chamber of commerce and asking if they know of any philanthropy organizations, and also, just looking for national philanthropy organizations that are out there and they're looking to want to invest in our children's futures, and knowing just how to find those resources, and also asking other teachers, when you're working within, for instance, the Computer Science Professional Association, where you're around teachers all the time. Teachers will talk about the funding they receive for their classrooms because they want you to have that opportunity to get those materials. So asking other teachers as well, where is it that you get funding for the resources in your classroom? Those types of resources are valuable just as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for digging into that a little bit more. I know that that's always a topic that's top of mind for people, of like, how do we actually get those resources? So thank you for that, Kimberly. Andrea,
you're very welcome.
I'm gonna say that this question in particular is what Greater Cleveland Career Consortium is all about. So could you talk to us a little bit more about how you engage and approach these different groups, and how you establish relationships that help you to expand your programming?
Yes, and you nailed it. This is the work that we do. We're a collective impact organization that has a mission to align and activate industry, nonprofit, education partners, along with government and philanthropy, to ensure that every student in our region graduates with an intentionally designed career plan. First, I would say it starts with our leadership council. So our leadership council is made up of executives from all of those different types of partners I talked about. So we have post-secondary executives on there. We have our Chamber of Commerce represented. We have some of our other economic development arms represented in that group, along with our district partners and youth-serving nonprofits. So they really represent the voice across our community. They help guide us through that strategic approach to engage and align partners in the work and support the quality engagement opportunities for students. We work really with our youth serving nonprofits to come in and provide that additional support to deliver our in-class activities in the classroom. They're also providing a level of support for the educators in the classroom to make sure that they're up to date on trends and understand really how to bring this career exploration to the classroom. And so that is really important in our work, to have that strong anchor of these youth serving partners that can help be that deliverer of the in-class activities and the career advising. We are working with our chamber and some other data in the region, just understanding where the workforce trends are, where the open jobs are, to take a more strategic approach into recruiting some partners, right? We're working heavily with our hospital system, that's in demand. Manufacturing is a huge in demand cluster in Cleveland, as well as IT, and then some construction. And so we start there with that data to do the recruitment, but have to have more individual conversations with our employer partners that help them see the value, whether it aligns with their corporate social responsibility efforts or their workforce goals, and encourage them to engage with us, to engage with the students, to help meet their own goals, right? This isn't self-serving. This isn't just for the students. This is to help the entire region. And so we need that community buy-in and support. We need to secure buy-in. That is huge to make this successful and sustainable. And so to do that, we had those folks at the table, right? I talked about they're represented on our leadership council, and they have that level of ownership in the work. So if they have that level of ownership, they're going to continue to help this strategic push, the recruitment, and the sustainability of it. But we can't do this work without a systematic approach, a tool, something that can help us track that. So really, to scale, we needed a way to organize, to streamline, to track the work in the ecosystem. We really needed one place that we could help identify the needs and interests of students, right? We need to know where we need to start. We needed a collaborative tool for educators and our youth serving partners to collaborate to support the students. A place for opportunities to be shown to students, right? There's these site tours, there's these internships. How could they find them in one place instead of having things being sent back and forth to counselors or teachers that may not ever land in the students' eyes, right? There's great intention, but there's so many priorities. And then we really, really, really needed a place to communicate in a more streamlined manner with our business partners. We needed essentially a one-stop shop that we can then bring our business partners in, not only allow them the opportunity to create opportunities to share with the students or educators in our districts, but find a place to go and volunteer, right? Districts need folks to come in and do mock interviews or to come into the classroom. And so we really needed a tool. And we're really excited to have found that in their partnership with you all at Transeo, Audrey. I think that really, when we're working with 27,000 students in 2 years, and that's going to go up to about 33,000 students starting next fall, we can't do this on spreadsheets and emails. It has to be a systemized approach to this work.
Thank you so much for that, Andrea. We are also thrilled to be partnering with you in these efforts. And I heard some really awesome things here in terms of, right, the networking. We can all recognize the importance of having these networks and working within these networks and what that provides to us, and both the necessity for utilization of technology, systems, structures, so that we can really reach and scale a larger number than we can with spreadsheets. But within that too, the necessity for individualization, right? So we need the structure, we need the technology to help us to scale, to help us to maximize our efforts and our efficiencies. But in the end, we still need to individualize these experiences, not only for our students so that they can find the right fit for them, but for the business partners as well, so that they can really understand how this will impact them. I think we all want for everybody to want to impact students from just the goodness of our hearts, and that we can see the future that is possible for our young people. But in the end, businesses have objectives as well and goals as well. So I really like, Andrea, that you brought that forward of how you kind of individualize that experience for them so that they can see how this helps to drive their goals. Because this isn't something that we're doing out of the goodness of our hearts. This is because we need to change the way that we're creating opportunities for students, for our overall economy, for our overall society, for who we're going to be as a future nation. So with that, though, with the ever-changing number of possible career pathways for students and the desire to make sure that it is the right fit for them, right, that we do need to provide these more individualized opportunities or experiences, what strategies do you put into place to help to match kids to options that are going to be a potentially good fit for them, given all of the different kind of competing priorities you have, that individualization can be really hard, but that fit is so critical. So how do you help to ensure that matching and that fit? Andrea, what are you all doing to really help to make sure that this is happening?
Yeah, so we've designed this recursive and iterative framework. So we annually, with students, again, starting in 6th grade, will have them look within themselves to identify interests, really using that career interest survey, look at their strengths, the skills that they have. Again, we're using some different surveys. We really were taking the kind of free approach in terms of surveys, because we know that the survey itself isn't necessarily the driver, it's how the interaction after that is. So how we build the reflection for the students is really important. So the students reflect upon those, they share that data with us. And we're going to be able to watch those trends, right? So these trends from 6th to 7th grade, do students have totally different interests from 7th to 8th grade, right? We'll be able to watch that. We'll be able to gain this macro level data of seeing X% of students are interested in manufacturing, or X% are interested in the arts, or X% are interested in the sciences, right? We'll be able to see those trends, which are going to be really important coming into the recruitment of our business partners, to have the right mix of opportunities. And we know every class is going to look very different. We're going to have some that are heavier on one end and some that are heavy on the other, but we don't want to end up in 11th, 12th grade with not enough opportunities of the interest that meets our students. So that's how we're going to start to use that data from the students to then recruit the right amount of experiences. I think the career advising will also help in this, right? We'll have adults talking to the students through that process, coaching them again of, you're here, this skill and interest of design could also go into graphic design, right? It doesn't have to just be pen and paper. So that advising and those conversations married with the tracking and the self-expression we have from the students will be really important. And then we've also really tried to build in the soft skills of the financial literacy, entrepreneurship to help them find different career pathways, right? They might like one skill, but want to own their own business. So how do we really drive them towards making those connections there? And we're just really trying to help them be successful no matter which career pathway they choose.
That's great. And so I'm hearing kind of those career aptitude tests is coming up a lot, and surveying the students, better understanding their needs, making sure that we're fitting what it is that they're looking for. Kimberly, you had brought that up as well, career aptitudes as being kind of one of the key ways that you're sourcing this information and helping to ensure fit. What else are you doing in your program and in your work to help to ensure that those opportunities that you're providing to students and that you're matching students with the right fit opportunities?
Well, again, this goes back to having the opportunity to allow the students to do things like classroom presentations on a career they think they might be interested in, allowing them to write about it, talk about it, present about it, ask questions to career professionals. And as we already have mentioned, career aptitude tests, and providing classes to them that give you an introduction to the different career pathways. There's not just the principles of IT class that we use through eDynamics learning. They have other classes as well that you can offer the students that introduce them to different career pathways. And so, looking for the resources that are out there and classes and just materials that you can provide to the students. Career fairs are another way. Some places provide career fairs where you can take the students there and they can actually talk to individuals and encouraging students who are looking for a particular career pathway to maybe look for some type of summer job that they can do through the local workforce that might spark an interest in them. Andrea talked about entrepreneurship and teaching students what it means to have their own business and what it means to be able to have those opportunities. And so entrepreneurship is definitely something, with a lot of our careers now being remote for various reasons, you see a lot of individuals looking to start their own business. And so in the past, I've taught things like digital photography, where I have the students create a business plan. I've had my students create a business plan and use the pictures that they took in that class as a portfolio that they can present to someone to say, this is my work. I've done actual, at Christmas time, when I was teaching in the building, we have a Christmas program that we present to the parents and other relatives and just the community in general. And so I've done photo exhibits there where I have those individuals critique students' photos So they not only get my experience, but they also have other individuals telling them how they can improve what they do. And so being involved in a place where they are letting others see their work is something that greatly encourages students who are interested in that field to want to pursue it. And so any kind of opportunities that you can provide to them, such as even competitions. I've had students that want to be writers, that we encourage them to look for writing competitions. I've been involved with the Optimist speech contest in the past, where we've had students who wanted to build their public speaking skills because they've decided they want to do a career that involves public speaking, where they have to write a speech and go and compete. So any kind of outside activities we can encourage our students to do, as well as what they learn in the classroom, are important for them to be able to use to understand what it is they want to do in their future as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Kimberly. So I know this is going to shock everybody, but we only have 10 minutes left. So if you have questions for our panelists, please drop them into chat now. I'm going to ask our final plans question, and then hopefully we'll have enough time to get to 1 or 2 audience questions as well. So please drop those questions into chat if you have them. This has been an absolutely excellent discussion. Andrea, Kimberly, thank you so much for what you've shared with us so far. Andrea, what final closing thought or piece of advice would you provide to our audience members as they think about how to put these practices into place?
Yeah, I would say just go learn. Like if you have time this summer, take 2 or 3 occupations that you think might be great to bring to your classroom that might align with your core curriculum, and go learn about them, right? Maybe meet a professional, go do a little research so that you can bring that real world element back to the learning, right? If you're a math teacher and you're doing geometry, meet an architect, learn about that, bring that to the classroom so the students can see how they're using that content when they leave school, right? That how important that is. And it's going to require adults to really take a little bit of initiative just to learn a little bit more to bring it to the classroom. It's not a lot, but just a little bit for all of us to continue to learn to help bring that to the students. So I think that's what I would leave with folks as a challenge for the summer.
I love that, Andrea. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Kimberly, what final piece of advice do you have for our audience as they're thinking about how they can put these practices into place?
I agree wholeheartedly with Andrea. It's so important. As teachers, we have to have professional development to keep our licenses current. And so look for professional development out there that you know that will enhance things that you're teaching in your classroom that might encourage students to want to do that as a career. And also, as she had stated, go out and explore what is in the world around you. Many of us go on vacations and things, network with people that you meet. If you, for instance, go to an amusement park, go to the ticket office and network with them and say, one of my students might want to do something such as that. What kind of information could you give me to help my students? And any kind of networking. If you have the opportunity to do any kind of networking this summer, I would encourage you to do that, because it's so important for us as educators to know what it is that is out there for our students, and know that what new technology is out there and what we can bring to our classroom to encourage our students to learn about the career opportunities they want to face, and so they can make an educated decision.
Absolutely. For us to be able to bring these opportunities to our students, to expose them to what's available, we have to know what it is first. I love that advice. Awesome. All right, so I do have one question that I'm seeing in the chat. We'll see if any others come in. So our question that we have is, do you have experience or knowledge of CTE apprenticeship programs? So Kimberly or Andrea, have you worked with CTE apprenticeship programs before? Do you have any tips of advice for our audience when it comes to these?
Kim, I'll defer to you first. I have something from our network, but I would love to hear from you first.
So as far as CTE apprenticeship programs, career and technology education as far as the IT field is something new to our school district within the last 5 years. But I have had students that have done internships. Several years ago, we were able to connect with an organization that gave students the opportunity. I had 2 students the very first year we started that did some web design work. And so the individual that I had connections with was able to find a local florist for a young lady from our school district to work with. And she actually worked with them for the summer. And her job was to, the website that the florist had, they felt it was geared more towards older individuals. So they wanted to bring some opportunities to that website that would gear towards young adults, things like flowers for like proms. And so they had my student work with them to redesign their website so that they could reach the younger audience. And so that's one of the opportunities that are available. As far as actual CTE apprenticeship programs, mainly networking is how I do that. Being in a rural community like that, sometimes it's hard for us to find apprenticeships programs that students can get to. And so virtual internships are something that we've explored. And I have had a student actually do a virtual internship as well, based on some networking that we did. So those are, that is really what I can bring to the table. If somebody has resources in urban areas, obviously the workforce is a place that you can explore to go to and ask them, you know, do they know of any local businesses that would be willing to allow students to apprentice with them and learn. And one of the local school districts, I do know that they actually require their students to job shadow in order to graduate. Because I have a friend whose son goes to one of the local schools and they're in a larger city. And so he had to go out and find somebody to job shadow as part of his graduation requirement. And they encourage them to look for somebody in the field that they want to go into. And so this particular young adult wants to be an accountant. So he went to the local accountant and said, you know, for the summer, could I job shadow with you so that I meet my graduation requirements for next year?
Andrea, could you tell us a little bit about, you said that there was somebody within the Greater Cleveland Career Consortium network potentially that has worked in this area?
Yeah, so CTE, I would say, is very strong within our partner districts. The Cleveland Metropolitan School District has their own team that's handling that. Our partner districts, actually, there's another mini consortium that's doing just CTE type work to support some of the districts. And then some of the districts have their own CTE models. So that is strong. That is one part of our framework. That's one way that students will get experiences in their junior or senior year to provide that learning for the career pathways that they choose and occupations they choose. Our chamber, the Greater Cleveland Partnership, is working to increase pre-apprenticeships, especially non-traditional. So students, and I've learned this because I don't have the education background, that apprenticeships are not for students while in school. They have to be graduated. So these pre-apprenticeships are really important, and it's work that they're trying to grow, especially in fields of IT, business, like finance, accounting. I'm trying to think of one of the other examples, but they're really working now and have some state funding and grants that they received to help really increase the pre-apprenticeship pre-apprenticeship opportunities in these non-traditional pathways. And there's already pre-apprenticeships that exist in Ohio as well that these students can join. And Kimberly, you're right, in terms of having this urban environment with a lot of employer partners, we do have that great opportunity to build it, but it takes some time, right? It takes some time to get those certification programs set up, to have that tracking and the right partners that are committed to having the number of hours, to doing the right mentorship, and all of those core components that go along with the pre and apprenticeship programs.
All right. Well, we're just about at time now. Thank you so much to our audience for being with us for this hour. Thank you so much, Andrea and Kimberly, for sharing your expertise, strategic and tactical tips and tools for our educators to be able to put into practice and really expand their CTE programs and work-based learning programs, and ensuring that there is equity and access for all young people to really be able to experience this type of learning and this type of connection to the career and working world. So for those of you that are going to be joining us again, we will have 2 more webinars in this series that we will be co-hosting with eDynamic. After this, for those of you that have asked this question in the chat, we will be sending out a recording of this session so that you can view it at any time, and we'll be sending more information about upcoming sessions as well. Please feel free to reach out to us or either of our panelists. And I'm also going to give a shout out to Dr. Jason Williams, who has put his contact information in as well and offered to share information about apprenticeship and work-based learning in Virginia. So please reach out to all of the experts that we've had a chance to talk to, and we will see you next time. Thank you so much.